preached at the early service this morning, and I got a little excited, and I went about 50 minutes. So I hope y'all brought lunch with you, because I'll probably go an hour and a half in here. Some of y'all just thought about leaving, didn't you? Shame on you! Well, I'm glad that you're here this morning. I'm excited to be able to bring the message. Nelson and family are away at a wedding, and it's nice that they can get away and enjoy some free time. And I'm excited to be able to share the word with you this morning. And before we get into it, in your worship bulletin, I'd like for you to do me a favor. I'd like for everybody to take that out in the area that's wide open for you to take notes. If you traditionally take notes, and even if you don't, I want you to write 5 words this morning. I want you to write 5 words. The first word I want you to write submit, S-U-B-M-I-T. Then underneath that, I'd like for you to write the word resist. Then right after that, the word wash, W-A-S-H. Then following that, the word grieve, G-R-I-E-V-E, grieve. And then number 5 is humble. We'll get to that in just a few minutes, but that'll be a report card for you today. There'll be something for you to pay attention through as we go through the sermon, and I'll get to it in just a minute and give you some directions around it. But before we get to that, raise your hand in here if you've ever baked a cake. You ever baked a cake? Keep your hand up if you have forgotten to put one of the ingredients in it that you were supposed to. About 3/4 of you can't read. Okay. Well, did y'all notice that my hand was up as well? You know, this morning we're going to look at the book of James. And what he gives us is a recipe on how to have a relationship with God. And you know, I've made cakes before and forgot to put something in. You know, I might forget to put the sugar in it. If my wife's cooking, she might forget to put the bacon in it, because nothing's good if it doesn't have bacon in it. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
But we have directions to follow. We have items of the recipe. And if you go right down, then your expectation is that at the end of the recipe, when you take it out of the oven, that you're going to get exactly what you expected to get. So if you take those items of the recipe, those ingredients, and you follow them to the T, by the time you get to the end, you have an expectation that your cake will taste good. Now, my grandmother, she was a mighty good cook. And she made this apple walnut cake that would just melt in your mouth, and what do they say, make you smack your grandma. It was that good. And the rest of the family would try to make that same cake. And we would take her recipe and follow it step by step. And it always came out pretty good, but it was never grand good. You know what I mean? The directions were there, but I think she just had a little extra special love in her recipe. Because she didn't measure, she just did, you know what I mean? Oh, that's a pinch, and that's a cup, and that's, y'all know what I mean. So when we did it, it didn't always turn out the right way. But if we follow the directions, the ingredients that James gives us this morning, it's going to be perfect what comes out of it. And what's going to come out of it is a holy relationship with God. And if that's our expectation going in, and we follow the recipe to the T, then that is what will come out of it. We will have the loving, caring, godly relationship that He created us to have, and we will have a life abundant because we will experience the true love of God. So this morning we're going to look at James chapter 4, verses 7 through 10. And we're going to look at the 5 ingredients that James calls us to follow in order to experience a holy relationship with God. And guess what those 5 things are? Y'all wrote them down. So as we go through these, I'm getting ready to read the scripture, and then we're going to break them down one by one. And the reason that I had you write those down is this is what I want you to do. I want you, as we discuss each one, if you feel like you are right where you need to be, that you are following that ingredients, you're following that recipe for that particular item, I want you to put a check next to it. And if you feel like, you know what, I'm not quite where I need to be, maybe I'm lacking in that area just a little bit, there's something there I need to work on, I want you to put a question mark next to it. And this isn't something to make you feel guilty about what you're not doing, but in order for us to be exactly what God would have us to be, there are things that we need to work on in our lives. And so I want you to take a look at these 5 things and say, yes, I'm right where I need to be, or a question mark, you know what, I have a little bit of work to do. So let's get into the Word this morning. So we're looking at James chapter 4, verses 7 through 10. And James writes this to the believers. I want to set this up historically so you can understand what's going on. James is writing this to the church in Jerusalem, to the folks that were believers. Now that church was growing like crazy. There was passion, excitement, love, energy. And that church was just exploding. It was conversion of the Jewish people to Christianity. And it was so growing so much, there was so much momentum going on that the leaders were starting to get a little bit nervous. Not the leaders of the Christian church, the leaders of the Jewish synagogues. Because they were starting to lose some of their congregants and they were starting to lose some of their power. And they didn't like that at all. So they started the persecution. And what happened was a lot of those members, they left. They left Jerusalem and they went to countries all over the world. And James is writing this letter specifically to those believers to say, follow these, do these things. Stay encouraged. Stay in the love of God. You're going to run into stumbling blocks, and this is how you get through it. It was a letter of how to be a believer. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible because if I feel like I'm reaching points in my life where I'm stumbling, I can go to James and there's directions on how to get closer to God. And so as I read this, I want you to think about where you are in your walk with God. And it says, James chapter 4, verses 7 through 10. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Come near to God and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. May God bless the reading of his word. We're going to break this down one by one, the 5 ingredients. And again, as we go through this, think about where you are today in your walk with God in these 5 areas. So the first one is submit. The definition of submit says accept or yield to a superior force. Accept or yield to a superior force. The world does not tell us to do that, does it? The word submit in the world is a scary word for most people. Because it means I'm giving control to you, and now you're in charge. But I want you to think about who we are submitting to. We're being asked by James to submit to a God that created the universe. That put the mountains in place and the rivers in place. That created the oceans. And through the breath of his nostrils divided the Red Sea so they could escape from Egypt. Think about the God that we are asking to submit to. Is there anything more awesome that we could submit our life to than a God that did all those things? That we already know loves us so very much. So why wouldn't we submit to that God? All things good come from God. Why would we not submit to that God? I want to paint a little imagery for you this morning. So when I taught my children how to go off the diving board, it was an experience. Except for Sarah, who needed no help, who just ran and jumped off. So we'll cast her out of this story. So when I taught Matthew and Rachel how to go off the diving board, I did it through encouragement and building trust with them. Some of y'all have been through this before. I jump in the water and I go out to the end of the diving board in the water, and I'm treading there. And the children are at the other end of the diving board, and I'll say, come on, it's okay, I've got you. This is going to be great. You're going to be safe. You're going to enjoy this. And they would step up on the diving board, but they weren't quite ready to come to the end. Can y'all get that picture in your mind? And then they kind of take one step, and I say, come on, you can do it. You can do this. I'm right here. I will take care of you. Meanwhile, I'm treading water. And they creep down, and they get to the very end of the board. And they look over at me, and I said, you can do it. You can do it. Jump. I've got you. You're safe. I will take care of you. And they lean over. Y'all have probably seen this. And they get down as low as they can because I feel like it's a shorter distance to jump if they lean over. And they get all the way down. Can you see it? And I'm in the water saying, I've got you. I've got you. And then they jump into the water and I get them and they're just excited. They're elated that they did it. But why did they do it? Because they trusted me. Because they submitted to me and said, you're in control. You're going to take care of me. You're not going to put me in harm's way. And that, my friend, is an image of God waiting for us to jump in and submit to Him. And we're waiting, we're on the edge, and we're getting down, but sometimes we're just not quite ready to do it. And then all of a sudden we jump and He catches us, and we experience life to the fullest. And then we get out of the pool, and then we're not quite sure if we want to jump in again because life's experience is getting our way, and we have outside influences pulling on us, and we're not quite sure if we want to submit. But that, my friends, is why we need to submit to God. Because He's always going to take care of us. He's waiting for us to come to Him. He's always there. He's just waiting for us to submit and join Him. So what I'm going to ask you now is to look at the word submit that you wrote down, and I want you to think about where you are in your relationship with God. He's always right there with us, waiting for us to submit and to join Him. Put a check if you feel that's where you are in your relationship with Him right now. But if you feel like there's some things that you need to work on, I'm going to ask you to put a question mark right there. Put a question mark. So let's move to the next thing that He says. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Resist the devil. Woo! You know what? The devil has power. We like to think that he doesn't, but the devil does have power. And when we try to get close to God, the devil steps right in and he puts a wedge in there and man, he tries to break things apart. If you're having a good relationship, he's going to put something in the middle of it. If you're doing something right, he's going to step in the middle and he's going to drive that wedge. And James tells us that we can resist the devil. And then what does it say? He will flee. How do we resist the devil? We go to God and ask for protection. Put a hedge of protection around me, Lord. Protect me from those temptations. Protect me from those thoughts. Protect me from those actions. And the devil will flee when you call upon the name of the Lord. I'm going to share a quick story, and I may have shared it before, but my daughter loves this story, so I'm going to share it. So one day, it was about 7:30 in the morning, and I had already had a bad morning. I had spilled coffee on myself. I was running late. It was not good. On top of that, I had to carry a lot of stuff out to the car. So I want you to picture this. I'm all dressed up, ready for work. My hands are full. Okay, I've already spilled coffee on myself. And I start out the front door. Well, we have a hook on our front door, a latch that opens our door. And when I leaned on the door to open it, I got my belt loop stuck on the front door. And because my hands were full, I could not get off of the front door. I was doing the hoochie coo, trying to get off of the front door. This did not add to the excitement of my day. So it's pouring down rain. I walk down the driveway and I step over the water to get to my car and drop my folder full of papers right in the gutter. And I proceed to watch them flow down the street. So I put my stuff in the car, I go down and I gather all my papers, I need to put something in the back of my car, I'm in singles and I had all my stuff back there, and this is where it gets exciting. It's not exciting yet, this is where it gets exciting. So I open up the tailgate and I proceed to walk right into the trunk. So not only did I spill coffee on myself, not only did I get hung on the front door, not only did I drop my papers in the water and watch them flow down the street, but now I slam my head against the trunk door. Who here is excited about that day? But it was at that moment that I had to make a decision. Am I going to let Satan ruin this day? trying really hard? Or am I going to call upon God right now and I'm going to straighten this day out? Or I can go back to bed. Those were my choices. So I went back. No, I didn't go back. At that moment, I called upon the name of Jesus and I said, you know what, Jesus, Satan is not going to win today. He is not going to win. He's trying. He spilled coffee on me. He got me stuck on the front door. I spilled papers in the water and I hit my head, and he is not going to win. Jesus is going to win today. And at that moment, when Satan heard Jesus is going to win, guess what he did? He fled and went to somebody else's house. He was not going to have victory over me because Jesus was going to have victory with me. I resisted Satan and he fled. At this point, I want you to look at the word resist that you wrote down. Are you resisting Satan, or are you allowing those things to creep into your mind? Are you resisting Satan, or are you allowing him to control your life? Right now, you have the opportunity to say, where am I when I walk with God? Yes, I am able to resist Satan, and I'm putting a check down because I'm feeling confident today. Or you know what? Got some things going on that I need to get rid of. I might have to put a question mark right there. You have to grade yourself, and it's about you and your relationship with God. So let's move on to item number 3. So it says in James 4, that item number 3 is wash your hands and purify your hearts. This is awesome. This is awesome right here. I can get excited about this because, you know, there are people out there in the world that say, I don't want to follow a God that all it does is make me feel guilty. And I say, you know what? My God doesn't make me feel guilty. My God sets me free. So I don't have to feel guilty. And that's exactly what James is saying here. Wash your hands and purify your heart. Because when we carry that stuff around with us, it gets in our way. Our house flooded a couple of weeks ago. We got some water into our family room. We had to pull up the carpets. And my wife, who loves HGTV, saw that as an opportunity to not only replace the floors, but redo the entire room. So we painted. I don't like to paint. I'm okay at it, but I don't like to paint. But there's a great message that I can correlate between what we're looking at here and painting. I'm the roller guy. I don't like to do trim. I'm the roller guy. Okay? You have that little pad that slides onto the roller, and then you put it in paint and you roll it on the wall. And as you go across the wall, sometimes that roller starts to slide off a little bit, and you get a little gap. And when you do that, it leaves clumps of paint, right, on the wall. So what you have to do is you have to slide it back onto the roller and then roll over those lines. Does that make sense to folks? When I do that, I use my fingers. I put a little pressure on this side, and I just take my fingers and I slide the roller back on. Well, what that does is it puts paint on my fingers. Okay? So then what happens is when I touch something, I don't think about what I'm carrying around on my fingers. So when I touch it, a doorknob, a cup, the table, it leaves a trace of paint. My nose, it leaves a trace of paint. Just like when we carry all that sin and that anger and that frustration, that depression, all of those things, when we carry that in our heart, it leaves a trace on all of our relationships. Sometimes we don't even know it. And sometimes we get that trace on our nose, and we go to the store, and we don't even know that we have a big streak of red paint on our nose. Just like when we carry that stuff around, we leave those smears of paint on the relationships of our life because we don't get rid of all those things that are ungodly in our life. James is teaching us, wash our hands of that. Have a pure heart. Give it to God so that we can have the relationships that we are supposed to have in our life. That God will bless them abundantly when we can get rid of that stuff that's in our life. And the way that we do that is to go to God and say, forgive me for my sins. Forgive me for my mistakes. Take that paint and leave those traces and wash them away so that everything is pure around me. And He has the ability to do that. So at this moment, I want you to look at the word, wash. And I want you to think about where you are in your walk with God. Have you given all of those things over to Him and your heart is clean and pure and you're able to have great relationships out of that? Or are you carrying stuff around and you just can't let it have those relationships you should have. Put a check if you're right where you're supposed to be, and a question mark if you're not quite sure. The fourth ingredient in the cake of building that relationship with God, it's a little strange. Let me read this verse to you again. It says, grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. That seems a little dark, doesn't it? But what James is saying here is that when we have all that mess in our life, we shouldn't try to hide it from God. And what he's saying is we will carry that around and we'll walk around like we're happy and joyful and everything is great. And what he's saying is when we have that stuff, it separates us from God and we are hurting God. And then what we need to do is get rid of that stuff, because every time we sin, every time we carry that around, we're driving another nail into the hand of Jesus Christ and we're hurting him. And we have to realize that we are hurting him. We can't walk around and being happy and joyful knowing that we're hurting Christ and separating ourselves from God. You know, when I was a kid, I was a pretty good kid. You know, believe that? Or y'all, Amy Lundman, shame on you. All right, this is where I'm going to ask Charlie to cut the video off, because I'm telling a story and my mom doesn't know about this story. So Charlie, wait, cut the video off at this point. Restart in just a few minutes. So when I was a kid, I loved sports. If it had a ball or a racket or a stick or a glove or a hoop, I was playing. I came home from school every day and I played sports. When I got old enough to play sports in school, I played every sport that I could. I just loved sports. So I had a friend whose dad was connected with a local hockey team. And he got a bunch of hockey sticks. So we started playing rubber ball hockey in my front yard. So we had a little ball and we put a thing on the fence at this end and a thing at the fence at that end. And we had a bunch of kids running around with sticks hitting a little ball. And then all of a sudden my mom comes out the front door and she says, "David Miller, you get in this house and go to your room." And I'm sure it's because I was being very nice to everyone and encouraging and uplifting. I can get a little competitive at times, and I'm sure there were some things I was doing that I wasn't supposed to be doing. She made me go to my room, and I was very disappointed because I think I was probably winning at the time. So I went in my room and I looked out the window. So my window was on the front of the house, and I see the kids out there playing, and that's just not right because I should be out there. So me and my infinite wisdom decided I was going to be out there. So I opened the window, climbed out the window, and I went and played in the front yard. My mom doesn't know this. So I played out in the yard for about 15 minutes. I climbed back in the window. I opened my bedroom door and I said, "Mom, can I come out now?" She let me out. I went out and played with the kids. But you know what? I tried to act happy about that. Like I'd gotten away with something. Really? Did I really get away with it? She might not have known what I did, but I had to carry it around that I probably would have very much disappointed her had she known about it. And I think sometimes that's our relationship with God. We run around and we do those things and we think we're hiding them from them and we're smiling and we're happy, but yet we're trying to hide those things from God. But y'all, let me tell y'all a secret. He already knows. He already knows. The point is that we can't walk around and hide and try to be happy when we're carrying those things around with us. We have to grieve and let them go. We can't be happy about it. Let's grieve that we're hurting God. Let's release that, and then we can be happy and joyful and be what God would have us to be. So I want you right now to look at number 4 on the item, grieve, and ask yourself, am I letting those things go? Am I disappointed when I hurt God? Am I disappointed? Do I feel regret when I hit that nail and put Jesus on the cross yet again and again and again? Put a check or a question mark. And item number 5, humble yourselves before the Lord and He will lift you up. You know, this is a hard one for me. I'm kind of a ham. You know, I don't know that yet, but I'm kind of a ham. And I like attention. And what this says is if I humble myself before the Lord, He will bless me. He will He will rain blessings over me, and I, because He's the one that did it, should give Him the glory, not me take the glory. He did it. If I submit myself and turn myself over to Him and allow Him to lead my life and great things happen, why should I take the glory for that? He should get the glory. And that's what being humble is being able to say, God, you did this. I was just here for the